everyone, welcome back. We are covering another area or skill to cope with this global pandemic that we are all going through together. And today I want to focus on a question that keeps coming up that a lot of people legitimately have, and that's, is my anxiety or fear okay? Is it okay to feel fearful, to feel worried? There are a myriad of ways that I can answer that question, and I will, but I want to start off by giving you the short answer, and that's yes. Fear is justified when there is a threat to our well-being or the well-being of someone we love, and when there's a threat to our life or the life of someone we love. And I would say those things are pretty true right now. We have a lot of uncertainty about what the future holds, especially the near future. And so our brains are programmed to ask lots of questions and to feel worried or to feel anxious or to feel afraid. So as you engage with that short answer of yes, I also want you to hear that even though a feeling may be justified and make total sense in the moment, sometimes the intensity of that feeling can be really overpowering and actually do the opposite of what the feeling is supposed to do for us. So I want to dive into a little bit of the understanding of what's going on in your brain, what's going on in your body when you feel these feelings, and then end on what you can do when the intensity doesn't match the situation or when the intensity is overpowering and actually keeping you from living well. So to start, a very kind of 10,000 foot view of what your emotions do. So generally when something happens out in the world, or maybe even something happens internally, we respond with any one of dozens of emotions. And that's based on our interpretation of whatever it is that's going on out there, going on in here. So, for example, global pandemic happening and a shelter-in-place order is happening all over the country. And we interpret that a certain way, right? So some people are like, yeah, shelter in place is going to be so awesome, and I get to do all the things that I haven't done before. I have so much more time. Others of you are like, oh man, a shelter in place, like what am I going to do with my kids for 30 days? And this is why I send them to school, so that I don't have to be a teacher, and now all of a sudden I have to be a teacher and I have to get my own work done. Some of you are feeling very uncertain, like, what does that mean, shelter in place? Your interpretations might be, I have to go get a month's supply of food and toilet paper from the grocery store. We have a million different ways that we interpret it. And based on that interpretation of what's happening in the environment, that's where our emotions come in. So for the first example, the emotion that person might be feeling is really excited because now they feel like they have all this time that they can get their home organized and don't have to go to work. The second person might be feeling really overwhelmed and frustrated. And the third person might be feeling really worried or anxious. Chances are you're probably feeling more than just one thing. And I feel pretty confident in saying that all of us, even if it's just lasted for a few minutes, have felt a little bit of anxiety and fear regarding this COVID-19 because there's a lot of unknowns to it. And fear is a response to the unknown. Anxiety is a response to the unknown. Anxiety is a really future-oriented feeling. We don't often have anxiety about things that have already occurred because there's no question marks about it. Whereas when we talk about the future, there's a whole lot of uncertainty, a whole lot of question marks, and that is a breeding ground for anxiety, which wants to figure it all out. A lot of times when you feel fear or anxiety, or let's give some synonyms that you might be feeling: dread, overwhelmed, worried, nervous, apprehensive. We can go on and on. There are lots of different words we can substitute in and out for these fear, anxiety words, but regardless of which one you would choose and which one feels like it really relates to your situation, all of it sort of manifests itself in our body in very similar ways. Increased heartbeat, higher blood pressure. Your brain is nonstop thinking of different scenarios and situations, a lot of what if questions, what should I do questions, what will happen questions that run through our mind. And the tricky part is no amount of asking yourself those questions really gives you a firm answer, because we don't know. We don't know how long we're going to be sheltering in place. We don't know how our economy will recover after this. We don't know how our jobs will be affected. We don't know how our health or the health of someone we love will be affected by this. And so as you experience this, you have this external event, global pandemic, you have this interpretation, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? You have these body feelings that go alongside it, and maybe your body mirrors what's going on inside. So you might be making this face or kind of curling in and getting nervous. You might feel shaky. All of these are very natural responses to the feeling of fear or anxiety. And with that, you have to feel that feeling, right? And I don't think I've met anyone that has come into my office or a friend that has ever said, I love feeling anxiety. I can't wait for the next time I feel it again. No, that just doesn't happen. If that's you, wow, I really want to meet you and pick your brain about what that's like. But I'm guessing it's probably not you. And so when we don't like what we're feeling, when it's an unpleasant or uncomfortable emotion, we want to distract from it or we want to push it away. And sometimes that's helpful for the short term, but a lot of times it's not. And so what I want to guide you through today is actually fully experiencing this emotion. Moving toward it when your instinct is to move away from it. We can move away from it in a lot of different ways. Again, I mentioned distracting or trying to push it away. I don't recommend suppressing it. I'd be a terrible therapist if I recommended suppressing a feeling. But sometimes I do recommend kind of taking it and putting it on a shelf for a little while so that you can get through whatever you need to get through in the here and now, and then later taking it back and engaging with it. So not suppressing it or pushing it away so that you never deal with it again, but maybe your child is having a meltdown and you can't have a meltdown with him or her, and you need to put your stuff away temporarily so that you can help your kid and then come back to your stuff later when you've got a little bit more brain space and physical space to do that. So what I want to teach you today is something called urge surfing. If you think of a wave, maybe you've seen it on TV or you've seen it in real life. Waves, however big or however small, they kind of start out really slowly, build, and then they reach this crest. And then after they reach the crest for a while, what do? Come back down and crash back into the ocean. Your emotion is pretty similar. Your emotion can't last forever. I know in the midst of it, especially if you're feeling panicked or fearful or worried, it feels like it's going to last forever. But I can say with 100% certainty that that is physically impossible for that emotion to last forever. It has a buildup, it has a crest, and then it comes back down. So I want you to kind of ride the wave of the emotion, ride it, understand it, kind of like a surfer is really in tune with the waves, knowing how long they can stay on it, how long they can stay under it if it's a really big wave, and really in tune with it. I want you to surf your own waves of emotion. And that starts by paying really close attention. What am I feeling in my body? I mentioned some body things earlier. What's your heart doing? What does your physical body language say? If someone were looking at you, what would they see your body saying? What do you feel internally? What parts of your muscles are tense or tight or on edge? What are your thoughts saying? What's the question that keeps coming? What's the worry or the interpretation that keeps coming? Is it true? Is it legitimate? Again, I would say probably they are true and legitimate because we are in a national emergency. And for most of us, we've never been in that before. And so not only thinking and observing those thoughts, but also validating, saying, yeah, there are lots of questions. I am scared. And notice what your body does. Notice the ramp up. Notice how you go from a little bit of questions, your heart's racing a little bit more, and then, okay, it's getting faster and harder, and the questions keep coming. And as you reach the top, notice when it crests. Notice, okay, this is the height of it. And this point, the height, the crest of the wave, is the part where it feels like it's going to last forever. It feels like it's going to overtake you. But again, hear my voice and rest assured to know it cannot last forever. Every emotion comes back down. And so fully feel it, fully experience it, and then let yourself come back down with the wave. And notice what that come back down feeling feels like. Notice how you begin to regulate, how your heart rate begins to slow down again, how your thoughts slow down. Does it mean that, okay, I've ridden the wave, I've felt all the feelings, I've come back down, I'm done? I have completed my anxiety for the pandemic and I do not need to worry about that again. Unfortunately, no. I wish I could say that that were true, but it means you've ridden that wave. Just like the ocean has waves that kind of come and go and ebb and flow, that might be what anxiety feels like for you for a little while. And there are other things that we can do in the midst of that so that you don't have to ride the wave every time, so that you don't have to keep coming back to it. But I wanted to give you that first so that you, one, felt validated in your emotion, and two, let yourself experience it without feeling like having to suppress it or having to put it away for a while. The other skills we'll teach in future days will help you cope with whatever level anxiety or fear you're feeling, or overwhelm, or whatever other synonym you would use for that. So until next time, keep riding the wave and hang tight.